everybody, welcome to the latest episode of Culture Clash. We gave you a little more warning than the last couple of episodes, a couple hours, but we got a lot of fun things to talk about here. But before we do anything, I got to bring in, my co-host, my co-founder, my brother from another mother, Mr. Kevin Reitzel.
What is up, Culture Clashers? Welcome. This is cool, man. Get another live one here like this, yeah.
Oh, okay. I just like doing the live format with Culture Clash. It's fun. We can be a little bit off the cuff, not have our notes, but you never know what's going to happen. And in fact, Kevin, things I didn't know were going to happen. I did it again. I forgot about our friend in the transporter buffer from Union Fed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you left him in the Union Fed transporter buffer, but I think you might want to let him out. He might have to use the refresher or something like that.
Yeah. So let me hit that. I'm gonna just hit this button here just to be on the safe side. Plus a little plug for Union Federation. But Mr. Davis Grayson, welcome to the Culture Clash.
Oh, you finally decided to let me out. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here, gentlemen. How are y'all doing?
Good to have you, Davis.
It's good to have you. Just a quick little thing here. Our good friend Chef Stump, Miss Jennifer. She's joining us for the live show.
What's up, Jennifer?
Feeling better, Jen. Hopefully you're feeling better. So, we got a fun show today. There's a particular reason why we have Davis here. It looks like he might have just lost his video. Things happen around here. So, Kevin, we're going to talk a few things here. We've got Emmy nominations, which is very interesting this year. And there's Mr. Davis back. So, hey, technical things.
Transporter malfunction.
Yeah, buffer lag, I guess is what we call that, Kevin, right?
That's right.
We're going to talk a little Stranger Things. And we have a very special new segment that is special because we brought Davis Grayson here because if you follow Mr. Grayson on Instagram, you know he is an amazing custom toy builder as well as photographer. The man knows his toys, Kevin.
He does. He's there. He's our expert. Yep.
So we are going to have a new segment and we're going to introduce the Culture Clash Toy Box. I'm excited. We got lots to do. Kevin, are you excited?
I'm so excited. I got questions.
Davis, I know you've got answers.
I hope so. Yes, I do.
Well, without further ado, let's do this thing.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
So now we are officially in Culture Clash episode 207. But before we get started with everything with the fandom news and reviews, let's do a little housekeeping here, Kevin, because we got some very exciting things happening on the Fandom Podcast Network.
Well, of course, we got some couch potato theaters coming up that we're really excited about. And I know if someone's watching right now, Jennifer's really excited for this. We got Grease 2 coming out for Couch Potato Theater. Why? Because it's celebrating its 40th anniversary. Came out 40 years ago, 1982. And apparently there's people that like this. And I just watched it for the first time. And I'm happy to say our good friend Jen's going to be on there. Also Lacey and my lovely wife, Erin. We're going to be having fun talking about Grease 2.
Are you going to have your T-Bird's hair going with the, a little extra?
You will have to wait and find out. You will have to wait and find out. But also, we have another Couch Potato Theater that we're really exciting because, Kyle, there's another movie that is celebrating its 40th anniversary.
And it's a very special first time ever type of Couch Potato Theater. It is a Couch Potato Theater remash.
Way long time ago in the days of Fandom Podcast Network, we did an early episode of Couch Potato Theater, I believe with our good friend here, Davis. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Well, we're going to be returning to that movie because it is dear and near and dear again to our hearts. And that is Mega Force, also celebrating its 40th anniversary from 1982.
I mean, let me give you an idea. He's going full 82 there because that was the VHS copy of Megaforce.
Yes.
And you know, the great thing about that movie is we love it in red and we love it in blue.
It's true.
And of course, we've got some great. Yep, exactly. Davis is one of those two guys at the reload station talking about. He just knows he's already been the hero of so many podcasts that he's letting me and you kind of hog the glory here.
True, yes. Yeah. But also too, one of the reasons why we're bringing this up is because our ongoing podcast series, Time Warp, we're looking at the movies of 1982 because it's celebrate 82's everything from 82 celebrating its 40th anniversary. A lot of iconic movies came out in 82, and we're doing it a couple months at a time, taking you back in time to those movies, but also letting you know what pop culture and television songs that also came out during the time that these movies were coming out. And of course, these are some of the films that we will be discussing briefly in Time Warp. But also, we got E.T. that we're going to be discussing, and it's a big year for movies. So, and also the breakout too when home video started really kind of getting out there. Remember when you had to go back and actually rent your VHS? Remember that, the VHS players too? Yeah.
Or when it was like really expensive to buy your VHS.
Oh, yes.
Be kind to rewind.
I spent $90 on RoboCop when it came out.
I'll give you a better one real quick. My dad and my sister went out and bought a VHS player without telling my mom at the mere cost of $999 and came home with it. And all we heard were the whispers of, "You tell her. No, you tell her we did this."
Did it have the remote control that had the little cord that went to the
top load?
Nice.
Long record thing. And they gave you a VHS tape with it that we could record a whole 30 minutes of something.
Hold on. Jennifer says she's got her costume. I'm assuming that's for the Grease 2 podcast, right?
No, that's for Megaforce.
Oh, okay.
It's Jen. It could be a whole nother costume that I don't even really want to think about. But that's a whole other thing. But you know what, guys? We got a lot going around the Fan Podcast Network, but we got a lot happening in fandom too. So, Kevin, are you feeling it? You haven't done it in a while. You weren't feeling well the last time we had a culture clash come around. The vocal cords weren't healed up. Are you feeling it this time?
Hold on a sec here. I think I might be feeling it. Hold on.
Let's news.
That sounded pretty good. Did you think? Yeah, that's good.
Well, Kevin just admitted he's basically too old to do it anymore, so he's getting his.
It's different doing it on video than just doing it on audio. And I saw myself in the mirror when I said that. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, guys, the big news is that the Emmys nominations have come out. The awards season hasn't been quite the same.
Question: Is it really big news?
Kind of right now, we are in a little bit of a dead time for news. There hasn't been a lot lately, but there's a reason I wanted to bring this up, Kevin. We've obviously talked before, both with the Oscars and with other years of the Emmys. The award seasons have not been the same because of COVID and a lot of other things going on. But I found this particular nomination section kind of interesting, and we talked a little bit about this off mic, Kevin, where it really feels it's very condensed of where they're pulling shows from. And there's also not a lot of regular TV shows. There are so many streaming shows. Does this feel like to you the full takeover of streaming as far as being the mainstream way we watch television now?
Yeah, pretty much it is. When it comes to regular broadcast television, it seems to be put on the back burner here. And then they're only pulling from 3 or 4 shows. It seems like it's really weird. They seem to be the standouts. But however, the Emmy voters are getting and watching their stuff, they're obviously, it seems like the group of kind of only watching 4 or 5 shows. It's really weird.
Okay, guys, I got to bring up Jen in the chat. Just made a mention of Peloton commercial. Are you and Davis aware either of you aware of the new Peloton commercial that has been produced and directed by Ryan Reynolds, starring Christopher Maloney in the commercial?
I have not seen it
No.
yet, but Jen was saying I should watch it. It's apparently very funny.
Christopher Maloney does the whole commercial in the nude.
And
He's
why do
doing
I
his
want to
work-
watch this again?
Yeah. Why do I want to watch this again?
I think it was much better for the ladies than it was for the. But I was like, I got to give him credit for his age. Man's in phenomenal shape.
All
So,
Okay.
but I got to give Jen a little shout out here. But let's talk about the Emmys. Let's talk about the Outstanding Comedy Series nominations. We've got Abbott Elementary, Barry, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Hacks, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Only Murders in the Building, Ted Lasso, and What We Do in the Shadows. A lot of familiar names there, Kevin.
Ted Lasso and Barry get my votes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. What about you, Davis? Are you familiar with any of these on the list?
I love Ted Lasso. It's actually a really good show.
Yep. Well, looking at in the major categories for a comedy series, outstanding actor in a comedy series, Bill Hader from Barry, Donald Glover from Atlanta, Jason Sudeikis for Ted Lasso, Martin Short for Only Murders in the Building, Nicholas Hoult for The Great, and Steve Martin for Only Murders in the Building. I think it's fair to say we might all be leaning towards a little Jason Sudeikis there, Kevin.
Yeah,
Davis?
definitely. But Bill Hader and Barry is really good too. And Jen gives a shout out to What We Do in the Shadows. Excellent, excellent.
That is a pretty funny show.
Yeah, Taika continues to roll. That's what we're saying. Outstanding actress in a comedy series, we have Elle Fanning in The Great, Issa Rae in Insecure, Jean Smart in Hacks, Kaylee Kuko in The Flight Attendant, Quinta Brunson from Abbott Elementary, and Rachel Brosnahan from Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I gotta be honest with you. I've heard a lot about Jean Smart in Hacks, but I'm not familiar with most of these performances.
Kaylee, I am. I've seen the first season of The Flight Attendant, and Rachel Brosnahan in the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is really good in that.
Yeah. Outstanding actor, supporting actor in a comedy series. We got Anthony Kerrigan from Barry, Brett Goldstein, otherwise known as Hercules, is from Ted Lasso. Bowen Yang from Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live getting a little love. Henry Winkler from Barry, Nick Mohammed from Ted Lasso, Toby Jimho from Ted Lasso, Tony Shalhoub from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and Tyler James Williams as Abbott Elementary. I gotta admit, there's a part of me in the heartstrings. I'm kind of rooting for Henry Winkler here a little bit.
I'm gonna go with Brett Goldstein as in Ted Lasso. Yeah, Roy Kent.
Yeah, Davis.
Gonna go with Roy Kent too.
He's Hercules, guys.
I can't quote anything that he says though, unfortunately.
Yeah, we try to stay family friendly. Supporting actress in a comedy series, we have Alex Bornstein from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Hannah Edenbinder from Hacks, Hannah Waddingham from Ted Lasso, Janelle James from Abbott Elementary, Juno Temple from Ted Lasso, Kate McKinnon, Saturday Night Live, her last go around, and Cheryl Lee Ralph from Abbott Elementary. Kevin, does Kate McKinnon win this for as a career thing for Saturday Night Live this year?
She's been doing it for so long, and she's so good. But I think because she plays so many different characters, she's going to be outshined by the characters being played by the other actresses. Because I would give it to Hannah Waddingham personally from Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Although Alex Borstein, I just want to give a shout out. She's very funny in the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah. What about you, Davis? Anybody grabbing your attention there?
No, not really. I mean, I enjoy Ted Lasso, and I've seen a couple episodes of What We Do in the Shadows, but the Marvelous Miss Maisel I have not watched yet.
So here's where things get interesting. We're going to swip to the drama side. Kevin, there is not one show on here that's a network television show. They are all premium cable or streaming shows. This is probably the closest you would get would be with Better Call Saul on AMC. Saul. Better Call Saul on AMC, I'm guessing. But here's the nominations for Outstanding Drama Series. Better Call Saul, Euphoria, Ozark, Severance, Squid Game, Stranger Things, Succession, and Yellow Jackets. Is the last season of Ozark, Kevin, is it a farewell tour for Ozark?
It should be. Ozark deserves to get it. It built up great. I like the way that it ended. I don't mind. I would great to see Bob Odenkirk get some love for Better Call Saul. I just think he's good. Stranger Things is still going on. I'd wait a little bit longer on that.
What about you, Davis? Any of these that you've seen or stand out to you?
I have only seen a few episodes of the Ozark, and I loved it. I thought it was really good. Better Call Saul. I mean, Bob Odenkirk is the one of the original actors who tried out for Michael Scott of The Office. So I mean, you gotta have some love toward him.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of Bob Odenkirk, outstanding actor in a drama series: Adam Scott from Severance, Bob Odenkirk, Brian Cox from Succession, Jason Bateman from Ozark, Jeremy Strong from Succession, and Lee Jung Jae from Squid Game. Ken, I want a question for you on Squid Game. Could Squid Game pull a Parasite and be the surprise and win this?
It's very possible because the show was really, really good, and it was, it's considered an underdog. But man, that show made an impact on a lot of people. Everyone was watching that show, and there's some good performances in that.
Does that show hit as big if it doesn't come out during COVID?
It's hard to say. Probably not, but we could be wrong. I mean, Stranger Things season 4 is doing quite well, and we're not saying we're out of COVID, but we're not in lockdown.
Yeah, that's true. Outstanding lead actress in a drama series: Jodie Comer of Killing Eve, Laura Linney from Ozark, Melanie Lazinski from Yellow Jackets, Reese Witherspoon from The Morning Show, Sandra Oh from Killing Eve, and Zendaya from Euphoria. I'm gonna go out.
Laura Linney should run away with that. She is fantastic in Ozark and scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, I think Zendaya has a puncher's chance here. She's just gaining momentum every time we look, and people rave.
I wouldn't
about
be surprised. Yeah, I had to stop watching that show. It's too depressing.
Yeah, it is a very depressing show.
Yeah, and it's a show I don't want kids to watch.
Yeah, no kidding. Outstanding supporting actor in a drama series. Remember how we talked about everything coming from the same show? Check this out. Billy Crudup, The Morning Show. John Turturro, Severance. Kieran Culkin, Succession. Matthew McFadden, Succession. Nicholas Braun, Succession. Oh Young-soo, Squid Game. Park Ha-soo, Squid Game. Christopher Walken, Severance.
Apparently these guys are only watching 3 shows.
Yeah, exactly. Outstanding supporting actress in a drama series: Christina Ricci, Yellow Jackets. Julie Garner, Ozark. J. Smith Cameron, Succession. Jung Ho Yeon for Squid Game, Patricia Arquette for Severance, Rhea Seehorn for Better Call Saul, Sarah Snook for Succession, and Sydney Sweeney for Euphoria.
Julia Garner. You don't know S about F.
Yeah, that's kind of my feeling on that. That I really think Ozark finally gets its just due this year, Kevin. I know you have watched all the series with your lovely wife. And yes. I need to play a little catch up on that. Davis, you said you liked it. I know a lot of people who rave about Ozark. It's wrapped up now, so I think Ozark pulls that. Oh, it's its last season. It's going to be it's just rewards at the end of it. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Emmys. But you can really see with the nominations this year that changing landscape that is the Emmys and television. It's going to be real interesting to see what happens. But guys, too, and another piece of news, a legend passed away. James Caan passed away at the age of 82 a few days ago. Guys, this is a guy who's had one of the more interesting careers in Hollywood. He was a superstar in the 70s, early 80s, kind of disappeared like a lot of actors did due to some personal issues, things like that. And then made a very interesting comeback, Kevin, especially in television in his kind of the second half of his career with the Vegas show on NBC that lasted 7 seasons. But James Caan, obviously, Sonny Corleone usually comes to mind first.
Yeah, I he's good in that just because that movie's so good. But there's a bunch of other stuff I like him in better, to be honest with you. He wasn't the star of that, and he had a really good death scene, didn't he? Or was that right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But he's found a new audience, especially with the Vegas series. But he was in Elf. He played the dad in Elf, and I thought he was good in that. My favorite was his film Thief that he did, Michael Mann's first feature film. He was really good in that, and he was also in Rollerball and a bunch of other shows as well. But he was one of those man's men. He really was. He liked to do what he wanted to do, and listening to his son talk about him too. Scott, it's who starred on a new series of Hawaii Five-0. He's definitely an interesting father to grow up with, but definitely a legend. He'll be missed.
What about you, Davis? Do you have any particular James Caan performances that stand out for you?
You know, I've always enjoyed him as an actor because he was a great character actor. But at the moment, I just cannot remember some of the movies that he was in. I mean, I know he was in like Hawaii Five-O, like with his son. He was in Family Guy for a couple of times, and I know he was in a few other movies. I mean, Las Vegas was the one I remember the most when I watched that show.
A couple of standouts for me for James Caan. Obviously, the original Rollerball is a 70s classic.
Misery.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Misery.
Yes, Misery.
I still don't know how to this day how the podcast of Rewatchables classified that movie as a rewatchable, other than they kind of hinted maybe you rewatch it for Kathy Bates' amazing performance. But yeah, he was phenomenal in that movie. One of the things I found real interesting, they were talking about the William Goldsmith book that he had written, and he talks about making Misery, and he talks about how James Caan was such a high energy actor and how it was just driving him bonkers to be in that bed all day filming that movie, because he was always an actor in his roles that was on the movie. But I have a guilty pleasure James Caan movie, Kevin. The
Honeymoon in
Program.
Vegas.
That's a fun one. That's not a guilty. I don't call that a guilty pleasure though, because that's got a pretty good cult following. The Program, the football film where he's the head coach.
Yeah, it's been a while. I actually found it on DVD because I wanted to watch it again for football season coming up. And I don't remember it well, but I remember the scene that was infamously cut out of it after its theatrical release. I remember that.
Where they were lying in the middle of the road, and then some other students tried to actually make that a real life thing, and it unfortunately did not end well. But
yeah,
I would say James Caan, probably not up at that Redford level, but he's probably just a notch below, because when you see James Caan, you know it's James Caan,
right?
And he's just that memorable. So another Hollywood legend passing away, but gave us a lot of great things to remember us by. So thank you, James Caan, for doing everything you did. But it's time to talk about some things we've seen. Now,
I got just to let you know, Kyle, I've got an audible that's not in the notes. I got some shows I'd like to mention.
Okay. Is that for what we're about to be doing?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I needed to do a little bit of an apology. This is on me. I'm taking full blame. We're planning to talk Stranger Things, and I was so excited to get Davis on because for our later discussion, which you'll understand completely, Davis is not fully caught up on Stranger Things. So we're going to talk a little bit about Stranger Things, but out of courtesy to Davis, we're going to try to keep our talk of Stranger Things season 4 fairly spoiler free. And I apologize for that. That's entirely on me as a podcasting host. But you know what, guys, we still got to talk about, because it was phenomenal. And I have some questions I want to ask Mr. Reitzel specifically about his reaction to this season of Stranger Things. So without further ado, it's time to talk about what we've seen. So it's time to buy it, stream it, or unsee it. So, Kevin, do you want to get into the heart of the matter, or would you like to throw out some of these other things that you've been watching first?
Did we talk about Top Gun? I don't know if we talked about Top Gun. Did we talk about Top Gun?
Yeah, we talked about Top Gun last episode.
We did? Okay. Can we talk about it again? It was awesome.
Yeah, we can talk about it. I'm down for talk. You've seen Top Gun, right, Davis?
Maverick. You
No.
seen Top Gun Maverick? Go see it. It's good.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Did you like the original?
Oh, I absolutely love the original. I mean,
Then you will love this one, because it pays great tribute to the original. And yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. And it was made me cry at times, and co-stars are awesome, and go see it. It's really, really good. So
you're saying that it was a movie sequel that was so fitting that it brought original characters back, and they were able to have a wonderful moment with them.
And actually were able to share a screen together. Yes.
Gee, what could Mr. Reitzel be referring to there, ladies and gentlemen?
And
No
Jennifer
comment.
Connelly, by the way.
steals this movie. She steals this movie.
Yeah. Really,
Wow.
really good. Really, really good. Yeah, definitely. So,
Yeah,
but
no.
I wanted to mention a couple of shows. First of all, that I'm into. Now, we mentioned The Boys last time. Boys was great. It just ended its third season, been renewed for a fourth season. Just totally awesome. But I'm watching a show on Hulu because, as you know, guys know, I watch the Orville for the, love the frickin' Orville, and I've been covering it obviously here on the Phantom Podcast Network for Union Federation, and it's just really stepped up a notch. It's such a good show, and I highly recommend it. But having access to Hulu, I was kind of seeing what else they have on there, and they have a show that is in its 5th or 6th episode now, I think, called The Old Man. The Old Man. Have you heard of this show, Kyle or Davis?
I have heard of this show. You have told me about the show. I've had several coworkers tell me about this show. It is actually on my watch list for this weekend because I am a huge Jeff Bridges fan. I just not have had the time to see this, but I am all in on this because everything I have yet to hear anybody who's seen this say bad things about it.
Starring Jeff Bridges and John Lithgow. It's about a former CIA officer who's living off the grid, finds himself on the run from people who want to kill him. That's the basic story there. And it's Jeff Bridges who's living off the grid. And John Lithgow plays his old kind of, I guess, contact. But now he's trying to hunt him down. But what's really cool about it is that it goes into flashbacks of why the story is going where it's going, because you see an actor play a younger version of Jeff Bridges in the Middle East doing some stuff for people. And you start to see the story of the past kind of catch up with the present of why he's being hunted. And I got to tell you, Jeff Bridges is great. He gets in some scuffles and fights, and he kicks some ass at his age. He's also got 2 very loyal Rottweiler dogs that will do anything that he needs, and they're great and they're cute. And it's got a really, really good cast. I highly recommend it. So it's got Aaliyah Shaka, who is really good in it. She was in that one, I think it was HBO show. I can't remember what it was called. Geez, I can't remember. Anyway, she's really good in this, and it's got some of the good cast too, so I highly recommend that. Oh, by the way, Jennifer says the Orville is blowing it out of the water this season. Yes, it is. It is handling some very on-topic topics that it's happening in the real world now. And what I like about the Orville, compared to Star Trek that likes to handle, current stuff that's happening, Orville kind of handles it a little more directly and in your face, and I love that about it.
One thing real quick on the Orville, too, is what's amazing about this season is the topics it's handling. You have to remember most of these episodes were written at least a couple of years ago because there was delays in this from filming because of COVID and so many things like that. And the fact that it's hitting the nail on the head with so many current issues that are happening right here, right now. I'm wondering if Seth MacFarlane had that Orville prophecy sitting next to him when he was writing things.
Davis, are you caught up on the Orville?
I am. And I will say, if Disney does not renew this for at least 2 or 3 more seasons, it's a huge disappointment. Because, I mean, even that last episode, by the end, I was upset at certain points because I was like, no, this should not happen. I mean, how are you going to do this? And how is this ethically right? And by the end, even the main character was like, I understand what you did. But it's like, wow, okay then.
Yeah, it's deep. It's so good. And of course, yes, I do agree with you, Jen. Seth is a genius because he's writing a lot. I think almost all these episodes, and he's directing several of them. He's wearing a lot of different hats as well as acting in the show. And his character itself, Mercer's also taking the next step too. So that's really, really cool. Just another, I want to give a shout out. I ended up streaming 3 episodes in because I was in Hulu. Have you guys ever had that friend that kind of stops hanging out with you because they have a significant other,
Mm-hmm.
They start seeing a boyfriend or a girlfriend and they just kind of like stop contacting you and hanging out with you? Well, there's a really funny show on Hulu called Dollface. I was kind of curious about it. It stars Kat Dennings. We love Kat Dennings.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Darcy, we love our Darcy.
40-year-old virgin, 2 girl, or was it what's the 2 girls, two broke girls, and then of course from
two broke girls,
MCU, Darcy. Well, she plays the girl that was kind of left her friends hanging when she was dating a guy and did everything with the guy, and he breaks up with her, and she doesn't know how to girl anymore. It's very funny. She's trying to reconnect with friends and learn stuff about that. So I like it. Give it a shout out. I think you guys might enjoy that. What about you, Kyle? You watch anything else?
Yeah, actually, I talked about this a little bit on the last Culture Clash. It's something to check out because it was just getting ready to come out. It's an anime series. It's called Spriggan, and it's by the creator of the original Akira manga. And Netflix. This is a Netflix anime exclusive title. 6 episodes. It's a very interesting premise. It focuses on a character named Onome Yu, who is a special agent for this organization that collects these ancient artifacts that are incredibly powerful. And they're trying to keep them out of the hands of people who would use them to create power shifts in the world and things of that nature. And it's a very high action, intense series. But what's fun about it is some of the artifacts they search for are legitimate rumored artifacts, like the crystal skull is the focus of one episode. Noah's Ark is a focus of another episode. It's very action packed. The animation is actually very well done. You can see it dubbed in English as well. So I was very impressed with it. I'm hoping it sounds like Netflix will be doing a second season of this show. I recommend it, especially if you're a fan of action anime and some military things in it as well. Very well done. Very interesting. Mysticism, action, military. It's got a bit of everything in it for everybody. It's very well done.
Davis, have you been watching or streaming anything too that you've been excited about? Or what? Have you seen it in theater or anything like that?
Finally caught up with All of Strange New Worlds. Love that. I caught up with Orville, I've caught up with The Rookie, which I love that show. Police dramas, you got to love them.
I got to finish that. I got to catch up with that. I love Nathan Fillion in that.
I do too. I mean, it's a really good show. And I've actually started watching, I don't know if y'all watch, it's the spinoff of 911 Lone Star.
I'm familiar with it, but I have not watched it.
I've started watching a couple of episodes and I'm getting kind of hooked with it. So I still got a few more things on my list. I've got like 10 shows I need to get caught up on, but I'm slowly getting there.
I actually have a question for you, Davis, though, regarding a particular TV show that I know you are an absolutely huge fan of, and that is the original NCIS.
Mm-hmm.
I am curious because I know you'll have an answer for me. Mark Harmon left the show, and a lot of people thought when Harmon left, that would be it. Stick the fork in NCIS. It's done. It's coming back. The new season is coming. They're filming it right now. I got to ask you, how has NCIS been? Because it's a staple of American television at this point. I think it's on season 20 or 21 coming up. So how has NCIS been without Mark Harmon?
I have only seen probably about 4 episodes since Gibbs left or retired. I can't say that right. It's not spoiling anything, is it?
Yeah, I think it's been long enough. I think that happened in 2019. COVID delays. Thank you.
Yeah. So I know he was wanting to leave the show. And if you could tell on the previous season, you could see some things that were happening that I was like, how is he going to come back from this? And when I watched it and, thanks, Jen. I do love Lone Star too. It's really good. But when I started watching it, I was like, how are they going to be able to do this? How can they replace someone that is fitting the Gibbs? Because I was like, there ain't no way certain people could just take it over and just walk right into it. And what's his name? It's just completely escaping me. He was in Babylon 5 Crusade. Who's now Gary?
Is he the guy that played the dad in the Brady Bunch movies?
No, what is his name? It's Gary.
And this is Lone Star?
No, this is NCIS.
Okay.
Who's the new guy? Who is that guy? I cannot remember his name. But they had a great intro to him. And
Gary Cole.
Gary Cole. Because when I first looked at him, I was like, wow, does he look familiar? Because he had the beard and everything. And I finally realized who it was. And I was like, oh, this is a really good addition. I think it will be well. So
he was the dad in the Brady Bunch movies, the 2 movies.
Oh, he was?
Yeah. He's also the announcer in Dodgeball.
Yeah, I knew that. He was on ESPN, the Ocho.
Yes, ESPN, the Ocho.
Ocho.
Yes.
So yeah, I have enjoyed it so far, and honestly, if that's one show that if they just keep having fresh stories and having new characters come in and actually keep developing on the characters, that show could last for quite a long time. I mean, same with like Law and Order. That's how they were able to last for so long.
I have one last question because I'm just curious here because of who the actors are that have been cast. Do either of you guys watch Yellowstone?
My dad watches it, and so I'm always kind of catching little pieces of it. He's addicted to Yellowstone.
Yeah, my dad is big time addicted to Yellowstone. But they're doing a second spin-off Yellowstone show for Paramount Plus, Yellowstone 1932. You know who the leads are in this show? Helen Mirren and Harrison Ford.
So what?
Yeah.
It's
Helen
the limited
Mirren,
series, I assume.
Yeah, this is like a 10-episode series coming, I think, next year, later this year or next year on Paramount Plus. Yellowstone 1932. The leads are Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren.
Wow. All right. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah. So, yeah, there we go. Han Solo's going to be back on a horse. So, guys, we did say we were going to talk some Stranger Things too. So let's get into that. Stranger Things season 4 has been out for a while. We're going to try to keep our spoilers down because Davis is playing catch up. And again, my apologies for that. That's on me. But Kevin,
it's all good.
I know you kind of fell out of love with Stranger Things in season 2. Season 3 kind of brought you back in, but the vibe I was getting from you as we were having conversations with Stranger Things season 4 was it took you back to that love you had like when Stranger Things season 1 came out. It brought you back up to almost that level. This current
season. And the I'm not going to spoil this because a lot of people are saying this, especially the Gen X age that I'm part of here, that a lot of the people and what they're doing and listening to and where this takes place in 86 is us basically during this time. Maybe there's a few years differences, but a lot of people are saying, yes, I feel like I'm Eddie or I'm Dustin or whatever, that there's a lot of that's going on because and they're doing a great job with the soundtrack of kind of taking you back to that time. And those artists are now reaping those rewards again, which is great.
Yeah.
But I don't want to spoil since Davis hasn't seen it yet. But it's done a really good job of taking us back to that time in the mid '80s with a lot of references, obviously the costumes and the setting, and they did a really good job of telling like these three main stories that's going on during this season, and then finally bringing them all together. And it was done really, really well.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. I don't think this is going into any spoiler territory. One of the things that I really liked about this season is as the kids have grown up, I think the themes that they pulled from have changed. Kind of reminds me of Harry Potter and how it's evolved as they've gotten older. The show's gotten even a little bit more darker in the themes that they've played. But one of the other things I like too, Kevin, and it's
gotten a lot darker. Let's be honest about that.
Yeah, it's gotten very darker. In fact, before I forget, we are talking Stranger Things. We see the Stranger Things season 2, part 2 poster. Kevin, I want to ask you though, because there's a new character in particular, and I think you can go into this character without spoiling a lot, because I think this is a character that really you identified with and brought in, and that was the character of Eddie. And
yeah, and Eddie's one of those guys that was very relatable, and that everyone either knew an Eddie or felt like they were the Eddie, because Eddie was an outcast. And like a lot of these kids they're not like the popular kids. And that's what makes Stranger Things also relatable. And, not just Eddie, but like Dustin too, and several of the other kids. There are certain things about them being part of their D&D group and listening to certain types of music. And, it's the character like Eddie resonated with a lot of people. And when you watch, you'll know why.
Yeah. This season, definitely, I was like, yeah, Eddie needs to be on an episode of Hair Metal, because we gotta talk about his amazing ability to learn a Metallica song in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, let's not get too spoilery here though, Kyle.
No, I'm not going spoilery. I mean, that's been something that's been blasted on the internet everywhere. So
yeah,
no, season 2 of this current season of Stranger Things 2 has actually made me sometime before season 5 comes out, which is going to be in 2024. I think I'm going to do a full series rewatch of this because I want to go back and watch season 2 and see if some of the things that we've learned from season 4 and season 3 tie in and elevate season 2. You know, I talk about this with like Deep Space Nine, where when you go back and watch Deep Space Nine now, season 1 gets elevated because of everything that happened in later seasons.
I'm going to wait till you do that, and then you can let me know, because I'm waiting for the Marvel movie that's going to elevate Eternals.
Well, you might have a little bit of a wait there. I'm just saying. So,
Davis, did I hit a funny bone there?
You did. And I will say, I did watch Eternals, and it wasn't bad. But my first idea that after I finished watching it, I was like, this would have been so much better as a Disney Plus series. Taking the time to flesh out all the characters and go through that, it would have been so much easier. I don't know why they just didn't do it that way. But
agreed. Yeah.
Well, Kevin, you and I are going to come back. We'll have a more spoiler chat on Stranger Things. But right now, Stranger Things season 4 for you. Buy it, stream it, or unsee it.
Buy it.
I'm definitely a buy it for me as well. Davis, get in gear, get caught up on Stranger Things next.
If they release all this after they finish in a collection, I'll definitely get that. So
yeah, no question there. But we're gonna take a quick break here. Tell you what else is happening on the Fandom Podcast Network. And when we come back, we got something new for you guys. But first, here's what's happening on the Fandom Podcast Network.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blooded Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our Fandom Flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. Please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
And we're back. Hopefully you're enjoying everything we're doing here at the Fandom Podcast Network. And check out our friends on the BQN, as well as the Lethal Mullet on its feed and Type 40 on its own feed as well. But we're going to do something a little fun here, Kevin. We've been talking about this. We're all from that generation. I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm going to call it. We are from the greatest toy generation of all time. The toys we had when we were kids, I don't think have ever been topped. And it's time to give some love to those toys. So we are going to open up what we call the Culture Clash Toy Box. And there's a lot of things in this toy box. But first and foremost, that is the main reason why we have the amazing Mr. Davis Grayson here, because the man knows his toys. I think Santa uses him for reference at times. He does phenomenal custom work. Again, check out him on Instagram, Springer_2017. He does phenomenal photo work, and all those figures he uses on there, he's customized in some way or somehow, and he is brilliant at it. So we are honored to have him here to help us open up this segment. And we are opening up the toy box to one of the toy lines that is truly one of the loves of all three of us and the love of so many. And it's probably number one on your list, Kevin. We are talking, of course, about they protect us on land and sea and air because GI Joe is there.
That's right. Real American hero.
GI Joe was, of course, in the 50s, 60s, and 60s, even in the 70s, you had more of the bigger GI Joes with, more Barbie sized almost, with different outfits and stuff. But in the early 80s, GI Joe came back as the rage of 3 3/4 figures established by Star Wars and Mego really took off. GI Joe came back and it gave us some of the most amazing figures, vehicles, and storylines for toys ever, including an amazing Marvel comic by, of course, Larry Hama, the great Larry Hama, and a very long-running syndicated TV animated show as well as a couple movies later on. But guys, before we get into the main question we have coming out of the toy box, I want to ask each of you, do you have a favorite GI Joe figure and maybe a GI Joe vehicle or play set? Davis, you're our guest. I'm going to start with you on this. What would you consider like your favorite GI Joe figure or maybe your favorite GI Joe play set?
Oh, it's funny because my favorite figures have gone different figures over the years. I mean, Blowtorch was one of my favorites. Sneak Peek, like Battle Force 2000. I actually loved them. Some people did not, but I thought they were pretty cool. Like Crazy Legs, different figures that you would see. I think some of the figures that really hit me was the ones that came out right after the movie, and they were never in the movie. And so
you're talking the line there, I believe, was some of the figures in that were like Hit and Run and Hardball and Fast Draw. Yeah, and you had the GI Joe version of Storm Shadow. In there as well as I think we had a new Stalker figure and a couple Iceberg and a few others there. But no, good calls there, Davis. Kevin, what about you? Favorite vehicle, favorite figure?
I've always had a certain nostalgia for the first vehicle that I ever bought, and one of the early figures. I don't have the original figure anymore, but I do have the original vehicle with a newer version of the figure. And that is the Ram with, of course, Snake Eyes on it. I love me the Ram. And when they released the 6-inch version with Breaker on the Ram, I had to get that. But this was my first vehicle. It was cheaper and it was affordable. But yeah, that one right there. But I think, of course, when it comes to vehicles, the best one and definitely my favorite, and I wish I still had mine, and that was the Whale. Because the Whale was like its own little play set. It moved too. It floated. It had the little door that opened up, the little sled. It had missiles, and you could put a bunch of figures on it, and the fans moved on it. It was just so freaking cool, the Whale.
Yeah. I think for me, as far as the figures go, the one thing I remember about G.I. Joe is my first G.I. Joe figures were actually not even bubble packed. I got for Christmas that year, the year G.I. Joe came out, in the J.C. Penney catalog, you could order the entire set of figures. And so it was the original run of G.I. Joe's. This is even before the swivel grip hit. And they came in each a little cardboard box, and
swivel arm battle grip, right?
Yeah, swivel arm game changer for GI Joe. But these did not have it. But each figure came in a little cardboard box. When you open the cardboard box, the figure was there with its weapon and then their battle card. But it wasn't. They weren't blister packs. So I got that for Christmas. I believe I got the Vamp and the Mobat as well that Christmas. It was a GI Joe Christmas. But Kevin, I got to go with you. The Whale is probably my favorite vehicle. Like you said, it was the kind of the centerpiece of my GI Joe army. It was in a lot of battles where it was used as the main fortress of what GI Joe would do.
It was affordable too when it came to wanting to put your figures on one vehicle. If you couldn't afford or find the larger play sets, that was the perfect thing. That was probably like $20 at the time, maybe 30.
I think 30 for that. I saw one complete in a store not too long ago, and it was $450.
Yeah. But people are trying to find loose parts of that to rebuild the ones that they do have.
Yeah. So it's the GI Joe line is amazing, but we have a big question, and this is why we're here in the toy box, because the GI Joe line is famous for having not one but two of the biggest white whale toys out there. And Kevin, for a while, you even refused to accept the existence of one of those toys, and that toy would be this one, the USS Flagg aircraft carrier. Now, Kevin, would you care to explain why you didn't believe the Flagg actually ever existed?
This was before I joined the Finest GI Joe costume group, and I didn't go to a lot of GI Joe events. And I would never see this thing. And plus, I didn't know a kid in my neighborhood that owned one. I don't know if they came out West Coast because I just didn't see it anywhere, you know. And then I started attending GI Joe conventions and stuff. And then I would always see like one or two of these, either loose in a box, or the box might still be sealed but it's kind of beat up, and or you would see it on display somewhere that's open, and you would see it at different prices depending on what that was, And then I went up to a gigantic toy store up in was it Vancouver area, and they had this huge gigantic GI Joe setup, and they had like 7 of those, and one of them was like sunk, and damaged, and it was crazy.
Yeah. Here we have a picture of somebody who had one set up in their living area. Davis, what are your memories of the Flagg?
I never had the Flagg, and I had a friend of mine who did have the Flagg, and so I would bring my Joes over, and we would actually have a party with the Joe teams there. And if you look closely with that Flagg that you're showing, that's a custom made bottom to it.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
I would see that a lot at GI Joe conventions, and I've seen videos of people making custom bottoms for these things to either fill them out to look more like an actual aircraft carrier. Mm-hmm. There's an old picture of one floating on water. I don't know if that was real or not, but yeah, there's been a lot of people that have made custom bottoms for these to help support them, so people can display them and put all the figures and vehicles on it.
I know the Flagg was only released from 86 to 87, so it was only out for 1 year. Do you know what the original price of it was?
If I remember right, it was like $79.99. It might have even been $100.
$89.99.
$89.99. Yeah.
Now I have seen some of the coolest customs. I've seen a Python Patrol Flagg. I've seen a regular Flagg, and I've seen the broadside where they made the Autobot, and it's a huge Autobot symbol on the front of the flag. So actually, there was it was in the cartoon, but it as well.
Yeah, it actually played a big part in the cartoon, especially in Kevin's favorite GI Joe 5-part miniseries.
Not only did it play a big part in that.
Are you talking about the Pyramid of Darkness?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
That's right.
But they actually were brave enough to sink the Flagg.
That's right, they were.
Yeah, and it was their Cobra helicarrier actually crashed into it, and that caused a story later on because they actually raised the Flagg back up, and it was that Cook Cobra. What was his name? B.A. Lacar.
I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen
It's been a while. The Joe and Joe podcast actually did a episode of it. It was actually pretty funny to actually relive that and rewatch that. So, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those cool things that even with the was it the Rise of Cobra or Resolute, which toy line? There was even talk about re-releasing a smaller version of the Flagg that had a working elevator, had a bottom to it where you could it was like a big shelf pretty much, but it was actually really cool to actually see. And unfortunately, it just did not manifest itself. But it was actually one of the cool things that you actually see in the cartoon and in the comic books as well.
So here's my Flagg story as a child. Anchorage, Alaska. We would go there every year. It's the biggest city in Alaska. It's a major metropolitan city. We go there once or twice a year, usually when it's time for me to get school clothes. We go for a weekend and go school shopping, or we'd maybe go one weekend in the summertime just to go. There was always this mall, the Diamond Town Center, and it was huge. It was huge. And they had this amazing toy store in it. In the window of this toy store was the box. They had it. I went in. I had my hands on it. The USS Flagg.
Hold on. This sounds like a Christmas story here.
Let me put it this way: there was a good half an hour of begging and pleading, and my parents' final answer. As much as I love my parents and they did a lot of cool things for me, this one hurt. Son, you cannot have a toy that is taller than you. The USS Flagg was over 7 feet long, and they were like, no, we have no way to get this back, and 2, you're not having a toy that's longer than you. You cannot fit it in your bedroom. His hand was heartbroken for probably the next few days would be an understatement. But yeah, this is to me one of the all-time greatest play sets ever. It's so cool, and obviously it came out at the right time because Top Gun was out, and so everybody was in love with aircraft carriers. So it had very good timing as far as that goes. Here we get to see, to give you an idea of the scope of the aircraft carrier. This is from a later toy catalog version of it. You have the Cobra Knight, the Night Raven, which was a very large plane onto itself, and it would fit on the front of the aircraft carrier, no problem, along with the Conquest X-30. And the Tomahawk helicopter was no tiny helicopter either.
For those of you listening to this and not seeing this, please make sure you check out the YouTube video because we are showing some really cool pictures of the Flagg. And Kyle, which one of those kids is you?
I'm probably the kid down at the end holding the microphone.
You're not the ginger?
I am not the ginger. All these reincarnations, and I'm still not a ginger.
So I will ask y'all this. I know with the recent HasLab with G.I. Joe with the Sky Striker, and it was actually fully funded. But if another HasLab came up for G.I. Joe for 3 3/4 inch, what do you think would sell better? A Flagg like this, a Terradrome, a Whale, or some other outlandish vehicle?
When you add in the price of HasLabs, and Davis, you know this more better than anybody. If they did a Flagg, it would be on the level of probably the same cost as Unicron was, which was the first Transformers HasLab, and I think that was like $1,000 to purchase.
I think it was $5.99.
It's more than 5. It might have been 8. I think though the one that would sell would be the Whale. I think the Whale would be the one they would need to go with. I'm going to guess that HasLab though would be probably, if it was 3 3/4, is going to run about what the new classified his tank was, which was $400, because it's going to be more than the Sky Striker.
Well, yeah, I mean, even if you think about it, in 2000, there was plans to release a Whale in Arctic colors, and it was going to come with 3 figures. However, that just did not come out, unfortunately. But that would have been actually cool to see an Arctic Whale, so to speak. But if they were to release a HasLab for a Whale, I would want the inside to be redecoed and remodified to actually be a working, almost like a mobile base almost.
Can I share this real quick, Kyle? Hold on.
There absolutely.
Right. Yeah, there's the Whale right there. I just wanted to bring that up and show you guys just how cool that thing is. In case you've forgotten.
Yeah, no, it was very cool. Going back to, guys, let's talk about the other white whale of G.I. Joe. And we had a discussion about this off mic last week, but the Defiant, which I believe was the heaviest G.I. Joe vehicle. The Flagg was the biggest as far as just size, but the Defiant was just a monster in its own right, between the carrier, the 2 shuttles.
It's a G.I. Joe space shuttle, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it just absolutely huge. This was towards the end of the line for G.I. Joe, though, guys. So I don't know. The question is, I don't know how many of these got made. And then, Davis, you brought up an interesting topic to me and Kevin regarding the Defiant. And I want you to kind of tell that story here of a reason why the Defiant might be so hard to come by even now at conventions and such.
Well, the Defiant was released in 1988, and it went to 1989. It was sold, I think it was also sold in Belgium, too, because there's also, if you look on yojo.com, you can actually see where some of the different advertisements and everything. And it was also sold for $99.99. However, the gantry, as you can look, if you're looking at it live, that was one part that it was not strong enough and sturdy enough to hold itself up. And then there was a really funny story I had when I went to Joe Fest this year. They actually had a dreadnought flag. Well, it's not a dreadnought flag, but it was an abandoned flag, and it was full of dreadnoughts on it. It was actually pretty cool. But I digress. The Defiant itself, the gentleman who was working at a toy store in Raleigh, I forget the name of the toy store, but he said that the wheels and the support of it couldn't hold it all together, and so he actually had a couch pillow that was underneath it holding everything up, and he actually sold the Defiant with the couch pillow and everything. So it was kind of funny with that. I actually had the Defiant at one time.
What?
Yep. It was back in 99, 2000. I actually found one for $100 complete. And I was, got it in mail and everything through eBay. It was amazing. But it was just too big. It just really was too big. And I couldn't carry it. And with the travels I had to do later on, I just could not. So I had to actually part with it, unfortunately. But some of the cool features about that was, if you look at, there's 2 figures that come with it, Payload and Hardtop. And if you look later on, back in 89, 90, I want to say, the Crusader, which was the second shuttle, which was released, it's a little bit different than the Defiant because it did not have the attachment where you could actually put it onto the booster, connect it to the booster. Didn't know if y'all knew that or not.
No, that's the new information. The slide we have up for those of you who might be watching via podcast or on YouTube, it's the actual G.I. Joe catalog picture now of the Defiant, which is very cool. But I got to take a quick moment, because if you look down, you see the picture for Sergeant Slaughter's group, and of course Kevin Cobra Law.
You know what? Here's the thing about it. Okay, Cobra Law's released, Cobra Law, and then the Renegades. And you think when you're going to see the G.I. Joe movie, there's a whole line of figures and weapons and everything that is just completely not in the movie, which was kind of disappointing. But I mean, the Defiant itself played a big part in the Marvel Comics run, and it was released Marvel Comics 65. Yeah, that was the first appearance of the Defiant. And on the very last issue of G.I. Joe Special Missions 28, the Defiant actually lands on the Flagg.
I forgot about that. That's cool.
It was a very cool episode for sure. Or an issue.
So, Kevin, I never had the Defiant. I never even seen the Defiant in a box, much less seen it in person. It's kind of like where you were with the Flagg. It's like, yeah, so the Defiant. Which would you, the Defiant for you, is that something you wish you would have had as far as the G.I. Joe line
Yeah, because I was a space guy, a big fan of the of NASA and the space shuttles, and I was kind of having Moonraker flashbacks too with that toy, but I didn't remember it, to be honest with you, until years later when I started seeing these pictures of it, going, what's going on, because I never saw it around either, you know. But and as I mentioned, when I started doing a lot of Joe related events, I've never seen this Defiant in a box. I've never seen like big, gigantic parts of it, you know, loose and stuff like that. I see like little pieces of it and stuff like that, or maybe just the gantry itself, but I don't see it at these events, unless I'm going to the wrong events. I don't know. It's been a while, but you know, when I look back on these big toys and stuff like that, that's something I would have actually gravitated more when I was a kid than the actual, you know, the other white whale, which of course is the aircraft carrier, the Flagg. But because I love space stuff, you know, and I thought that would have been really, really cool. But you know, I probably would have broke it pretty quickly.
The crank on it, when you actually are moving it up, that was one of the parts that would break as well too.
Right.
Yeah. So okay, so that leads to the question, guys. And Kevin, I'm going to start with you on this. The bigger white whale, is it the Flagg or is it the Defiant? And I'm going to ask you to follow up and say, if you could have one, if you could only have one, somebody's got brand new inbox right in front of you, which one right now would you take? So first of all, which is the bigger white whale in your opinion?
I think it's a Defiant because I have not seen it anywhere, to be perfectly honest with you. And obviously, with all the problems apparently that it had, yeah, definitely. If I could have one thing, I guess the most iconic thing would be the Flagg because you could put other toys on it. You know, you could make it a big, gigantic playset. And plus, if you have it in your bonus room hanging out there, it would be such a chick magnet, you know?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm going to answer next because I think I agree with you, Kevin. I think right now a completed Defiant is probably the white whale because of all the problems it had. And I don't think it got produced as much as the Flagg did.
Wait. You mean the Defiant, not the white whale?
Yeah, the white whale is the Defiant. The white GI Joe white whale is the Defiant. I think somebody offered me in front of them. This would be there's an extra measure you have to talk about, and you kind of mentioned this, Kevin. If you take the Flagg, you are committing yourself to spending a lot more money because you're gonna need Sky Strikers and Conquests and a Dragonfly to have stuff on the deck of the Flagg. Where with the Defiant, it's all right there anyway. So with the Flagg, I think you're committing yourself to a much bigger investment down the line. But I think the Flagg also looks much cooler in that room. And yes, Jennifer, it is a chick magnet because
she's like, no. Yeah, I said that, and then Kyle just kind of dismissed it. I don't think he heard the joke.
No, I heard the joke. I was waiting, but Davis, you are the expert here. This is the reason why you're here. What is the bigger white whale in GI Joe? Is it the Flagg or is it the Defiant?
The Terradrome. No.
There's a point to be had there.
I mean, let's think about this for a minute. I mean, the Terradrome that was released the same year, I believe, and you can still find them pretty well. I mean, they're easier to come about. And I know other bigger vehicles that was released subsequent later on.
Wait, Davis, before you give your answer, you threw something into the mix a couple weeks ago when we had a discussion off mic. Before you give your final answer on this, because there is this. The General. Something Kevin and I didn't even know existed. Yeah. And you brought this up.
That is one of the cooler vehicles. It was released, I believe it was in 91, 90. I may be wrong. Somebody can correct me if they know something, but I want to say that it was released later on. It was during the Dick series of the vehicles. Let's see. I'm just trying to look right now on yojo.com. If you ever want to look at anything on any of the vehicles, you can probably find them by just going to yojo.com, and you'll be able to find all of the virtually all of the vehicle parts, anything you need. I know there's a lot of people now, they're actually doing some 3D printing for some of the parts. I know for like the whale, some of the tail fins to it, some people have actually been working on that as well. But I'm just trying to look right here. I don't see where it was listed. Anyways, the General was actually one of the cooler vehicles, and it actually contained not only Major Storm, but it was actually a fun helicopter as well. And I asked one of the guys one time at a convention if that one had a hard time keeping the support, and they said no, that the Defiant was the one that was the hard one that would it was too heavy. So
this actually looks like it's built pretty solid here, and if you look at this picture right here.
Yeah, I mean, it was released in 1990.
So Davis, again, I'm going to ask you. So what is your GI Joe white whale of what we've discussed? You can throw the General in as an answer here, but what is your white whale in the opinion? What is the ultimate GI Joe white whale?
Oh well, I mean, And not talking about some of the stuff that was never produced, right? We're not going
Right.
to
We're
touch that
talking about
part.
whether is it the Flag, is it the Defiant, or are Kevin and I both wrong and it's something else entirely? But
Well, I have, like I said, I've had the Defiant before and I like it. And I still have one of the shuttles. I have one of the Crusader shuttles that I actually customized. The Terradrome, I have it. It's big, and trying to find all the parts to it, it's actually really cool. But I gotta say, I mean, I've had almost all of them. The General was the one I never could get, and I have not been able to find that. So if I could ever find one that was complete, I think my 3 3/4 inch collection of vehicles would be complete then.
there you go. So for Davis,
Yeah.
it's the General. Okay, but I'm gonna ask you the question. So you've already owned a Defiant, but somebody says here's a brand new Defiant, here's a brand new Flag in the box, completely brand new. Which one are you taking?
Oh, I'd probably take the Flag. I mean, just for that reason alone, has many customs of I have seen of people creating a bottom hole and actually, fleshing it out to be a little bit more of a sound boat, so to speak, or vessel. I would probably take a Flag. Now, Mark Webber said on his podcast, "What's on Joe Mind," that when he was at Hasbro, he went into like the archives and he said there's one of everything in there. There's like a Flag, there's like a Defiant, there's like all this stuff that's in there. I mean, it was just really cool to see it still in a box, he was saying.
They need to open that up to like a museum, like Rancho Obi-Wan, and just let us go into the Hasbro archives for tour. I'd be all in for that. So
if you ever do get a chance, though, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, go over to yojo.com. They have some of the unproduced vehicles and like some of the ideas and concepts. Like, I still think that Star Brigade should have came out earlier, like what you were talking about, Kevin, with like dealing with love of NASA. If they would have been released that like maybe a year or two earlier, like with the Defiant, some of the Star Brigade members and everything, that would have actually probably would have taken off a little bit more. That's just my opinion, though. I mean, I still try to figure out what the Lutarnix Empire is all about.
Yeah.
it was getting rough at the end. Let's be honest.
Yeah, figure designs are getting a little too colorful too. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I will say this, just completely off topic. One of the last Star Brigade figures that was released in '92, Space Shot, who had like a really cool like helmet and everything. He had he had a freighter, so to speak, that in his bio. I think that figure is going for like $200 or $300 because it was such a not highly produced figure. So
I don't know. I'm still waiting for my G.I. Joe Rocky Balboa figure, but
Did you know Sci-Fi had his own vehicle, by the way? Did you ever see that one? Yeah.
Sci-Fi
Check this out. Yeah. It's really hard to find, but Sci-Fi did come out with this figure right here. See that? I don't remember the name of the toy, but he matches it, so it's pretty cool.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Kevin, is Sci-Fi the only Joe figure that's actually allowed to rock a neon color?
Yeah, because he matches his vehicle here.
He's crossing the streams, ladies and gentlemen.
For you audio listeners, I have the Sci-Fi green figure in a Star Wars dewback.
Crossing the streams yet again.
Yeah. Leave that right there. There we go.
Kevin, Jen has weighed in on this.
Lady killer.
There we go.
That's how Aaron fell in love with him.
That's exactly true.
Sci-Fi on a dewback.
Yeah.
That's a new hashtag, everyone. Sci-Fi on a dewback.
Yes. Yeah.
On that note, guys, it's time to do a little bit of closing out here. So with that. Davis, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Thank you so much for contributing to our first toy box segment. It's always a pleasure to have you. And you know what? Nobody brings the toy knowledge like you bring the toy knowledge.
Why, thank you so much. And I do have one question, one final thing to add to all that. for you can go out with and think on it. What if all the movies that we see now, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Star Wars, everything that's come out, Transformers, would have come out at the same time with the marketing and the toy distribution of the 1980s and 90s?
Mm,
It would be insane.
a good time. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you
Kevin,
both, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure to have you here, Davis. I promise not to leave you in the transporter buffer. Kevin, as always, it's a great time to do Culture Clash with you. It's always a blast, and like I know what you have in your hand, and we got some fun. By the way, you have some really cool old GI Joe stuff over your shoulder, by the way. But yes,
I just want to give a shout out to these Couch Potato Theaters coming out soon: Grease 2 and Megaforce. Oh yeah, I got to show. Kind of picked up the Coastal Defender, all complete too. A gift from my lovely wife, by the way. Yes, right here.
And what an awesome vehicle. I'm not going to lie. That was actually one of the cool things I would actually play with when I was a kid.
And I got the Cobra Buzz Bore too. Check that out. Very cool. Yeah.
That's always a cool one.
Guys, I'm just going to throw it out right now. If Hasbro, if you're listening, if you want to do some retro stuff for us, give us a mass device. Let's get a GI. Let's have an actual mass device. You can put a light at the top of it. You can we can do our search for the 3 elements.
Didn't you have to buy that DVD collection to get all the mass device pieces?
Yes, you did. And the last part, which is like one of the hardest ones to actually get, because if you find a actual complete mass device, you were good to go. But the last piece, it was the crystal and the main part of it, the cannon part. It's very hard to find. Very hard to find.
Yeah. That's a lot of white whales in G.I. Joe. But anyway, I want to thank all you listeners for listening to us and watching us on the YouTube channel. Thank you to Jen for contributing, our good friend Adam O'Brien, of course, the host of Lethal Mullet here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And of course, too, you can find all the great shows of the Fandom Podcast Network either in podcast format on our master feed at fpnet.podbean.com. You can also search the Podbean app, but we are also on all the major podcast catchers, whether it's iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or so many others out there. And if you're watching this on YouTube live right now, visit the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. We're doing a lot of video work on our shows now, and we're always striving to improve those and do some fun new things. And we got stuff planned. We're excited. And then, of course, to visit our Facebook page, Fandom Podcast Network. You can email us directly, or you can email sci-fi on a dewback at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram at FanPodNetwork, as well as on Twitter at FanPodNetwork. There might be pictures of sci-fi on a dewback on either of those. It's hard to say. I am Kyle. You can follow me on Twitter at AKyleW, or on Instagram at I gotta go buy a dewback now, or at AKyleFandom. Kevin, where can people find you, sci-fi, and the dewback on social media?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix, and of course on the Fandom Podcast Network and on Facebook.
And Davis, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me at Instagram at Springer_2017, and also hashtag sci-fi on a dewback. That'll be the new hashtag trending.
He's smiling. Look at the dewback. Dewback's happy. Look at that.
Next week, the new podcast, Sci-Fi and the Dewback, will premiere on the Fandom Podcast Network. I can't tell you what the conversation's going to be like. Just a quick, I've said it a couple of times. I'm going to say it one more time. Follow Davis on Instagram. His work is phenomenal. He does amazing work with custom toys. I keep telling him he needs to go apply at Hasbro, but that's just my personal opinion. Culture Clash Live will be back soon. We're going to be covering more things. We'll probably have a much more spoilerific Stranger Things conversation too as well. That's my fault again. My apologies to all you wonderful listeners out there. We got some other things coming up. Comic-Con is right around the corner, Kevin. We're going to have some big news about that, not only probably for Culture Clash, but also our True Believers show. So,
yes, a lot of stuff coming out there. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. So, until next time, thank you everybody for listening and watching on the YouTube channel. As always, remember, respect each other and enjoy your fandom. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We are out of here.